live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lounge Time. I'm your host, Rich Saile, and today, Week 7 is nearly in the books for the NFL. College football, tomorrow, the first playoff rankings come out. That will be discussed when we do picks more so on Thursday, when the full first playoff bracket will be out. Now, as you guys know, I put out a poll earlier today on X and on YouTube, but the poll's mostly on YouTube. And I said, first topic I'm going to discuss. Well, looks like we are starting in the AFC because it is wide open. And I mean wide open. My Patriots won another game, 4 straight, 5-2. Granted, it was the Titans. I'll take a win, though. We surpassed our win total from the last 2 years, 4 wins, and then 4 in 2023. So I'll take it. I'll take it. They're on the right track. But let's get to the AFC as a whole. Who is the best team in the AFC right now? Is it the Colts, who are 6-1? I watched them against the Chargers. Is it my New England Patriots? Is it the Broncos, who had a bizarre comeback against the Giants? We'll get to that also. Or is it the fucking bandwagons, who finally broke 500? Past 500. Well, I'll answer it. My personal opinion right now, if we're judging by everything, it should be the Colts. Why? They not only have the best record in football right now, they have the most explosive offense. They've beaten really good teams so far. They beat Denver, so already you have to put them ahead of Denver. They beat the Chargers in LA this past Sunday. That has to count. Their only loss is to the Rams on a touchdown with less than a minute to go in the game. And other than that, they dominate the shit teams. Titans, Dolphins, squeaked out Arizona. The Raiders they beat. You name it. What is there not to really say for them not being the best team? Their defense is a good defense. They get just enough done. They're going to make it tough for you to score it once you get in the red zone, but they get the job done. And I said last week, it's time to give Shane Steichen some credit for being Coach of the Year at least getting some votes, because what he's done, I don't think anyone expected the Colts to be 6-1 and leading the AFC South to this point, especially with Daniel Jones at quarterback. We all knew Jonathan Taylor had great ability. We saw it in 2021. We even saw it in the years they were garbage. 22, 23, 24 even. You knew he was good, but they could never get a passing game to help him out and take the pressure off his shoulders. Not even that, the weight is lifted off his shoulders. And now he's doing solid. So I think by default you have to say that. And I wouldn't be mad if you say that, you know, they are the best team. I think we have to say right now, with the resumes all together through 7 weeks, they are the best team. However, I do think they are beatable. I do. Because when you look at games like the Cardinals, the Rams they've already lost to, right? The Cardinals they beat, but I'm saying the Rams they lost in LA. You look at Denver, if it wasn't for a penalty, let's see, they'd probably lose. You look at the Chargers scoring more in the second half, but Herbert, he threw a bad red zone pick. Really bad in the first half. But the way they make people look silly with their offensive playmakers, Taylor in the backfield, Tyler Warren, who I loved in the draft, he does everything for them. Michael Pittman, very underrated receiver. Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, they got dudes. And that offensive line. Do you remember a while ago when they had a top offensive line in football with Quentin Nelson as a rookie, with Ryan Kelly the center, and they had young Braden Smith? Well, two of those guys are still there. And yet they're cooking. I think they had a veteran Anthony Costanzo back in 2018 when they had Andrew Luck in his last year. That's when we were starting to think, are the Colts one of the top offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in football? Yeah, but then Ryan Kelly retired, and Costanzo with injuries, and he retired. That was the best line at one point. So right now, if you're asking me the question, it would be the Colts. Number 2. If we're going by eye test and how they're playing, and if you look at like big wins, right? You'd have to say either the Patriots or the Chiefs. Let me be real with this, okay? When I look at New England, right? We have beaten up on some weak teams, and everybody's like, oh, the Rich schedule's easy. Wait till Drake May plays much better competition. I'm not denying that, and that's going to be settled as the season goes on, because there are some games that they will get tested, and that's going to be important to judge them when we look at that point. And all I said this year, guys, is I want to see progress. Remember, if you looked at the YouTube post, I had the Patriots being a wild card team. And honestly, let me say this. They could still make a move at the deadline. They still can. Will they? I don't know. I'm hoping they will. I'm reading everything based on what I see. But again, I hope they do make a move. But you also can't control who you play in your schedule. You win at the end of the day. That matters, right? This team, let's go through New England's wins for a brief second. In Miami, which we've outlined, they've never won in Miami until this year, where they finally overcame that. I know Miami's awful right now. Looking at history, that means something. Carolina, who was bad at the time, now all of a sudden has won 3 straight. Who would have thought Carolina would have finally break through past 500? I'm not saying they're a great team, but they're not a bad team either. They're pretty decent. In Buffalo, well, Kansas City, you go to Buffalo in 2 weeks. Let's see how you do. Okay? Saints. Bills beat the Saints. So did New England. Okay. That's a wash. It's a tie, basically, in how we judge it, right? So they have a win against a common opponent. Beat the Titans. And granted, the Titans are one of the worst teams in football. Win's a win. So they have the win at Buffalo. Denver, if you look at their wins, in Philly, down 17 at one point. That has to matter. Or down 14, I should say. That's a big win. They lost to the Chargers. In Chargers, that's a big loss. And they lost to the Colts. So I would say right now, the Broncos also did beat the Titans week 1. Beat the Bengals, beat the Steelers also. And then you have to look at also that Denver looks sloppy against the Jets. And their best wins are against Philly, but they lost to the Colts and the Chargers. So you got to say, okay, I'd probably put them 4th. I would. Because I don't know if Bo Nix can continue to play great when he's behind. And down 19 in the 4th, that was a great comeback for Denver. We'll get to that in a little bit more. But the way they're playing, they're not playing great on both ends completely. Which, is still a shaky sign, and I do think that Denver will be a playoff team. I did not expect that defense to be as shaky as it's been through the last, I would say through the first 7 games. I mean, in Tennessee, they look good. The Colts, they look shaky. Minus points in fantasy, which don't even get me started on fantasy. I'm already heated at somebody. Chargers, they looked okay against. They can rush the passer. And then their run defense is all right. I mean, they're pretty good, though. But again, you have to put them 4 because they don't look like the best team in their division at the moment. And that pains me to say because when I go to the Chiefs, right, their only good win is against the Lions, who just beat Tampa today. Other than that, you beat a combined 5-15 against your other 3 wins. Ravens, Giants, and the Raiders. So, my question is, are we going to judge the second best team in the AFC based on the best win of the 3? Because if that's the case, right, let's be real. The best win, probably that means more, is going to be New England because that is Buffalo, and that's going to challenge the division. Now, they got one more crack at Buffalo. But if we're looking at throwing in wins that are not going to matter outside the conference and beating the best teams, painfully, the Chiefs have the best win. Although I would argue Denver has a win at Philly that should matter, right? But let's also factor in context. The Bills have been supposedly banged up at the second corner spot, but they were undefeated going into that game. Drake May led a game-winning drive and beat Buffalo in Buffalo. A road win. Mahomes beat a Detroit team in Kansas City, and they were basically banged up. Not saying that the win isn't meaningful. It is a good win, but let's compare this. If it was in Detroit, I might have to change my opinion on that. But it's in Kansas City, where Xavier Worthy's back, and Rashee Rice, and they act like Rashee Rice is fucking Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. No, he's not. No, he's not, Chiefs bandwagons. And I've seen you all over fucking X now, which I was going to have Yoham on the show Sunday. We agreed to wait on a better day to do it, which I'm fine with. Okay? Denver has a great win in Philly where they came back, which I could argue is a better win than the Lions because the Lions had to go to Kansas City. Denver went all the way to Philly and beat the Super Bowl champs, who were also unbeaten. So, when I look at the second best team in the AFC, if we're judging by right now, healthy, what we fully expect at the end of the year, it should be the Chiefs, if I'm being honest. And I think, non-biasly, it is the Chiefs. Which pains me because I would love to put New England ahead of Kansas City in the AFC as far as, like, the best teams. But I'm not a delusional Chiefs bandwagon who thinks, oh, you know, we're going to go to the Super Bowl now because now we got Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Everything's fixed. Like, you completely dismiss how good Denver is, how the Colts look. New England's ascending in the right direction. Okay, you think you're just going to steamroll through everybody. No, you're not. You're not steamrolling through everybody in the AFC. That's not what's going to happen. Okay? I'm telling you, they also have beaten teams that are not great. And you bandwagons want to act like Baker Mayfield's resume for MVP should be disqualified. No, it shouldn't be. I had a conversation with somebody on X about, oh, well, those teams haven't proven anything yet. Seattle won in Jacksonville last week. The Falcons beat the Bills last week. And the Niners won in LA against the Rams when they were banged up and injured, and they beat Atlanta yesterday. So those teams haven't proven anything. Do you see what I'm dealing with, guys? The delusional lunacy of Chiefs bandwagons. This is why I don't like when they win. Because when they win, their fucking ego-mometer is through the roof. It's beyond a 10. It's more like a gazillion of their delusions. And Nick Wright's already dropping banners, which I never knew a team start dropping banners in week 7 for now having the Vegas MVP odds-on favorite, which I'm going to be real with you, he shouldn't even be the odds-on MVP favorite. He shouldn't be. This is a popularity contest. If we're doing it, the MVP based on a popularity contest, you might as well just give him the thing right now. Because then it's not even close. The NBA MVP used to be a popularity contest. I think it still isn't to a degree. And I'll get my NBA nerds on here to tell you the same shit. But I don't think it's as bad of a popularity contest as the NFL in some ways. People were begging that Lamar should have won over Josh Allen. No! Take Josh Allen away from Buffalo. How are the Bills without him? They wouldn't make the playoffs. Do we remember when Lamar Jackson was out in 21? The Ravens went to the playoffs with Tyler Huntley and came within a play from beating the Bengals in Cincinnati. Oh, yes, I remember that. And that was before Lamar Jackson won his second MVP. And choked and gagged an AFC championship against the Chiefs. So, these Chiefs bandwagons that are going to then say to me, oh, well, Rich, what if you take away Mahomes from the Chiefs? They wouldn't be a playoff team with those average receivers. There's no way he would make the playoffs. That's where I got you. You have Andy Reid, who's had a great record with quarterbacks other than Mahomes. And you can go back in the past based on it. And people are like, well, what about right now, recently? Well, Mahomes has stayed healthy, which, good for him. Right? But Andy Reid's track record without quarterbacks is pretty good. And the success and the history backs it up. Okay? Now, when you say Rich, well, it's not good because they haven't won Super Bowls. Do you know how hard it is to win a Super Bowl without a all-time great quarterback? Please don't even get me started. Andy Reid went to 5 championship games in Philly. 5. With Donovan McNabb. And McNabb was no scrub. He was a pretty good quarterback. And he went to 1 Super Bowl with McNabb. So, we're just going to act like that won't matter if you take away Mahomes on the Chiefs. Mahomes, if you take him away on the Chiefs, with Andy Reid coaching, there may be a 6-win team, maybe an 8-win team, like Belichick was without Brady for a little bit. Because Andy Reid won with Alex Smith before Mahomes got there. But everybody seems to gloss over that. Alex Smith can only take you so far, though. But he won some games. Does that not matter? Guess not. How would the Bucs be doing if Baker Mayfield wasn't playing for them this season? Would they be still 5-2? No. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. So, I'm just saying, if we're judging by the MVP standards, Mayfield should be the front runner. Now, after tonight, obviously Vegas is going to have Mahomes as a huge favorite because it's not only a popularity contest, they shut out the Raiders. Whoop-de-doo. You want a cookie? Go ahead. But to answer the question, it would be the Colts 1, non-biasedly the Chiefs 2. I would put my Patriots ahead of Denver because I think New England, since the Steelers game and the Raiders game, has looked better than Denver right now at this moment. And I know Denver, New England, and why am I drawing a blank on the third team that's won 4 straight? I know it's somebody. And give me a second. It'll eventually wrap the thought there. And I think it's not a South team. Chiefs won 2 straight, so it's not them. It's not NFC East. Oh, the Bears. NFC North. So the Bears, Broncos, and Patriots all tied with the longest winning streaks to 4 apiece. Okay? So, and New England has beaten some of those teams pretty convincingly. Carolina. Titans are bad, I know. Denver only won by 8 against Tennessee, and that was week 1. I know, but that has to matter. New England beat Buffalo in Buffalo. Denver won in Philly. Granted, it was by roughly, I think Denver won by, I want to say 4, a field goal at least. And New England won by a field goal in Buffalo. So, but New England's looked better because offensively they're clicking. Defensively, I know people are going to say, well, it's a lot against weaker competition. They're playing good. Denver gave up 30-something points to the Giants. That is concerning. They scored 13 against the Jets. They're 2 up and down as far as what you're going to get. At least New England's level and consistent on offense and defense. That's why I got New England 3 and I got Denver 4. Colts are the best team in the AFC. Chiefs 2, New England 3, Broncos 4. And then I would probably start going Buffalo 5 because I know what Buffalo can be. Chargers are going down. Jacksonville's going down. But I would say, okay, 6, 7 would be them. And then it's the Steelers maybe, if you want to put them a little bit over the Chargers and Jaguars. You know what? Give me the Steelers 6. And then I'm going to say the Jaguars slightly over the Chargers because the Jaguars have had some good wins. The Chargers have good wins, but they've been sliding since week 4. And I know what their problem is. They can't protect Herbert. They can't run the ball, and Herbert's throwing bad interceptions in the red zone. That's a red flag. A team that's descending in the wrong direction. Now let's get to the Giants' collapse of the Broncos. Now, I had a friend of mine that has been on the show last year. I won't name drop him. He's a good dude. We'll have him back soon, hopefully. He called me after the game, and I was like, he kind of wanted me to leave him alone in a group chat we were in. So I was like, you know what? I've been through the pain. If that kind of loss happened to me, I wouldn't want to be talked to about that game. So I was like, all right, I'm going to let him be. He calls me. And I pick it up. I'm like, all right, go ahead. And he told me, and you guys, first of all, before I get into the rest of this conversation, I want to say one thing. How about them G-Men, baby? How about that shape on? 33 points in the fourth quarter. 33 points in a quarter. In the fourth quarter. The Giants defense gave up 33 in the fourth quarter. How in the world is that possible? You had a 19-8 lead, if I'm not mistaken. You give up 33 fucking points in a quarter. The real OGs that have watched Lounge Time for now 4 years, the ones that have watched this show publicly for 3 years, you're going to remember this saying. Because I haven't brought this up in a while, but I'm telling you it's going to happen again. The New York Giants, to me, are what Stephen A. Smith views the Dallas Cowboys. What can go wrong will go wrong. Just wait. They are an accident waiting to happen. They're the gift that keeps on giving. I was saying to myself, good thing I didn't take Denver in Survivor, which I took the Chiefs, by the way. That won. And I'm watching Denver come back, and I'm like, nah, no way the Giants blow this. No way. I turned the game on when it was Denver first and goal down 10. I'm like, okay, they're going to make it respectable. Okay, Sean Payton. They're going to make it respectable. Bo Nix. Denver pulled a win 3. Punt the ball back. They go up and score. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to gag the game away. Sack Jackson Dart a couple times, a penalty flag. 4th and whatever, he gets a first down. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have to hear 2 of my good friends gloat about beating Denver. But in a way, I win because I didn't take Denver for Survivor. They take the lead with 43 seconds. Little did I know at that time, a botched field goal would be the little play that ruins the game. A botched PAT. Because then what happens with Bo Nix? Bing, bing, bing down the field. Will Lutz, ball game! Shane Bowen. That was a colossal choke job. I mean, that is like the old Jeff Fisher Titans giving up 35 points to Tom Brady in a quarter. That's equally as bad as that. But the magnitude is 100 billion times worse because it was a 19-0 lead through 3 quarters for the Giants, and you gave up play after play after play, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, field goal kick to kick it off and kick you straight in the dick, dude. Wow. Yeah. That's worse than getting kicked in the nuts, man. That shit's bad. And you know what's funny? These same fucking Giant fans that honestly, they try to fucking punish me and gloat about Daniel Jones looking better than Mac Jones when I kept telling them, I'm like, guys, Daniel Jones is not as good as you think he is. And I kept telling them, I'm like, just wait. You know what's going to happen. And Mac Jones, I kept telling him, he has a fucking DC calling plays for him on offense. What did you expect him to do when this is not a situation that clearly he can overcome at this stage in his career right now? At the time. Well, they glossed over that. I had to watch them celebrate a playoff win that they got against a Vikings team they've called fraudulent. That they were not really that good, they've told me. That was with Kirk Cousins. Kevin O'Connell's first year. With a defense that was in the bottom 5th of the league. Bottom quarter of the league. At the bottom 5 in, pass defense. It was horrible. And they acted like they won the Super Bowl, those two guys. I was at the house and I was going, my nightmare scenario happened. But then when they played a real team, they got fucking absolutely pummeled and bummers. I had my buddy Rabal right here on this show after it happened. And I asked him about the Giants' future. And he was hoping they'd get a number 1 receiver. He did 2 years later get Malik Neighbors. What happens though? The accident waiting to happen starts. Your offensive line looks bad. Daniel Jones reverts back to the quarterback we know him to be. A turnover-prone machine, reckless with the ball, doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, paranoid under pressure. He looks horrific. Get this though. He leaves New York to go to the Vikings to be a backup in the playoffs. Then leaves the Vikings to go to the Colts. Now he's 6-1. And now they start Russell Wilson, who throws moon balls. And you go, oh no, 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 no. And then he throws a pick against Kansas City. And I'm like, what did you expect with Russ? And then they go to Jackson Dart, who has wins against 2 playoff teams, the Eagles and the Chargers. And honestly, should have beat the Saints if they could fucking protect the ball. But weird shit happens in New Orleans. And 2, when you shoot yourselves in the foot, there's only so many times you can get away with it before it comes back to bite you. And Denver, you controlled that game through 3 quarters until Shane Bowen pulled the colossal meltdown choke job. I'm going to call it colossal choke job. That's what I'm going to say. And you know what my nickname for this game's going to be? The colossal choke job. The Colorado colossal choke job. That's what it is. The absolute choke job at Mile High by the Giants. A giant choke job in Mile High. That's what I'm calling this game. This was an all-time horrific quarter by the Giants. A game where the season narrative changes. You go from being 3-4 to being serious about, okay, maybe, just maybe, they could be respectable in the division and could maybe be 7, 8 wins if the kid plays well. Maybe 6. 6 might be a ceiling, actually. Instead, you go to 2-5, and you're staring in the face now of a top 10 draft pick that, quite honestly, I don't know if you want a top 10 pick when you consider how the quarterbacks aren't looking, but then you're like, well, who's the other can't-miss guys at this moment? There's a few. Caleb Downs. Jeremiah Smith isn't until next year. Same with Ryan Williams. I mean, there's some guys like Peter Woods, TJ Parker. They're okay. They're no scrubs. But other than those 4, Ruben Bain, you already have Kayvon, Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns you have, who's leading in sacks. I don't think you need Ruben Bain. So, who? But, and then what happens is, too, Denver avoids being in a 3-way tie for the AFC West and now still has a game up, which, by the way, thank you, because that's the only thing that separates the Chiefs bandwagons right now. And that's separating the Chiefs from being a top 2 seed in the AFC to being just on the outside looking in, because the Jaguars beat them early. The Chargers beat them early. And the Eagles beat them early. So as long as they're in the back seat, while my team's in the passenger seat, number 2 seed in the AFC, I'm fine for now. So I'll be real. Thank you, Denver Broncos. Now let's get back to the conversation briefly. So he was telling me, he's like, Rich, this is one of the worst watches I've seen this team suffer loss-wise. Which I told him, this is the worst Giants loss easily since the miracle at the Meadowlands 2 when Deshaun Jackson returned that punt for a touchdown. I remember exactly where I was, watching it in my room, and I'm going, no way, oh my God. And I go, oh, this is going to be a fun day to go to school tomorrow. And I remember, like, kind of smiling and giving some Giants fans a little heat that day for the time being, because that was the game that knocked him out and ruined the NFC East for them that year. And short behold, they didn't even make the playoffs that year. So that was it. This is the worst loss the Giants suffered since the miracle at the Meadowlands 2. But I told my friend, I said, listen, I know exactly what you're feeling. But you nailed the quarterback spot. Because Jackson Dart, in all seriousness, outside of the pick, he played well. He played well. But, granted, there's growing pains. As with teams that have rookie quarterbacks now, as with teams that have second-year guys taking a step back, there are growing pains. There's the honeymoon phase if you do great early. And then there's the, okay, are we sure? Do we need to be worried? Can this be fixed? Is he the guy? Sometimes it's reversed around. A young quarterback phase is like a marriage. Sometimes it goes good early, and then you start getting to worry late, and then you divorce after 3 to 5 years. Or it's a little rocky in the beginning because you're like, I don't know. And then the more you see some good things develop, the more you go, yeah, it's going to work. And it eventually goes the way you want to go with it. That's what this rookie quarterback situation is like. And then you start thinking after 5 years, you're like, okay, he's learning the game now. He's learned some things. When does he learn this? And then you'll know, okay, are you going to be in the hunt? Are you going to be better? And that's where you deal with it. So all the guys that have 3 years on the belt, you're kind of almost entering that outside thing, and then you have to start thinking as an organization. is he the guy and stuff? And that's going to be a decision that the Texans have to make soon. The Panthers with Bryce Young have to make really, really soon. Miami made that decision too quickly. And they gave Tua a ton of money. Well, look at the Dolphins now. Which, by the way, fuck you, Miami. I love that you're in disarray. So, Mike McDaniel, that honeymoon phase, boy, did that last a good 4 years. And now they want him out. They've tuned him out. And now he's throwing Tua under the bus, benching him for Quinn Ewers. Having a young quarterback is like a marriage, ladies and gentlemen. It can go well or it can go south really bad. You just got to know the signs. And if you're lucky to have one for more than 5 years and it works out great, then it works. But if it's not working so great, you got to either make that decision early or you got to get the right people in to try to do this. And if you can't, you failed. Straight up. So, that game was bizarre. Let's go into Thursday night. Joe Flacco and the Bengals, they beat the Steelers on Thursday night, which, honestly, the Steelers defense, old, they got torched. They committed penalties that you go, why? And for once, the offensive line for Aaron Rodgers looked solid. Rodgers had a semblance of the arm that he has and the clutch throw to, and I know I'm drawing a blank here. I don't think it was Darnell Washington, but I could pull up right now who it was. Right? And I'm going to pull it up now as we speak. And watch, surprisingly, I might be right. Surprisingly, I might not be. But I'm going to get it right now. Because this is what put the Steelers up, actually. Pat Freiermuth. Okay, I knew he was a tight end. To go up 1 with 2:21 left to go in the game. And then they give Joe Flacco time to just nickel and dime down the field. And they go crazy. And Jamar Chase, he set franchise records with catches, targets. You couldn't double team him. And I've had Steeler fans saying, double him, and they're not doubling him. So that defense, not only is it old, it is torchable from the secondary spot if you get them to be undisciplined. And that offensive line, supposedly it was one of the best looking times I've seen the Steelers play good. But they didn't look like this previously. So that's saying something, right? So I look at this and say, if I'm the Steelers, I'm a little worried about what I have surrounding my quarterback for the future. Because if you have an offensive line that can't protect well, you have an okay running back situation with Kenneth Gainwell and Warren. DK's great. And then you go, well, Calvin Austin, solid. Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, they're good tight ends. But who else do you have after that? What if Arthur Smith leaves to go back to being the Titans head coach? Then you got to go look for a new offensive coordinator all over again to develop a young quarterback. So you're back with all the young teams trying to figure out, okay, are they good? You still have Mike Tomlin, though, who surprisingly never has a losing season. I would be a little bit concerned with what the future holds if Aaron Rodgers retires after the season, which I'm expecting most likely that he will. So I think that, once again, it's a situation of, well, let's see where this team goes. They haven't really looked quite the part of a top contending AFC team. They're maybe the 6th best team in the conference. And they're division leading. Now, you missed a golden opportunity to take a huge lead in the North, own your division for the most part. Now the Bengals are still in it, and Joe Burrow hasn't come back yet. Now, If they could just hold the fort and stay in playoff positioning, Burrow can come back in December and give them right a chance again. And honestly, that's what you want if you're the Bengals. So, I think that, again, the Steelers blew a golden opportunity to take control of the AFC North and really, really blew an opportunity that, in my mind, they could have been really, really comfortable in the AFC North, and they could have had a good shot to maybe boost up their AFC playoff status. Nope. Missed opportunities. So, they kind of blew this. Let's go into I'm going to skip around. And again, the Lions, it was a good win tonight against Tampa. They got pressure on Mayfield. But it's the Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown show because the Lions know what they are. They're going to run the ball. Gibbs had 218 yards of offense. And if it's Gibbs and St. Brown, if you can't stop them, you ain't beating them. And that defense, where was this against Kansas City is what I want to know. Where was this? It wasn't even there. And I'm like, really? Without Brian Branch, without Terrion Arnold, and I'm going, you play like this today instead of last Sunday? Pain. Let's go to the Rams. Handle Jacksonville. That was a absolute beatdown for the Jaguars. And the Rams, I'll tell you, Devontae Adams turned back the clock a little bit. He had his way. Trevor Lawrence, it's time to have a conversation. Because this guy, he has talent that is really, really good that you like, go, please, we got to get somebody like him. 6'6", good enough arm, accurate, can run. You go, man, we need that. But there's something missing. I can't understand why he hasn't grown like he should. And I wonder if it's a mental problem. I wonder if it is. I wonder if it's a systematic thing where he's had different head coaches. Urban Meyer year 1, Doug Peterson for 3 years, and now Liam Cohen. What is the problem where Lawrence isn't growing to the capability and talent that he should be able to do? This guy was a number 1 overall pick for a very good reason. And he has not moved at all. He's low-key plateauing right now. And I'm going, why? Why have you not gotten better? Why have you not gotten your team to this point? And I'm trying to figure out what it is. You score 7 points all game against the Rams, who are a good defense. They're not a great defense. 7. Trevor, that ain't going to cut it, man. That is not going to cut it. And I know I had the Jaguars as a playoff team. I know I did. But they'll get it together because they are a team that was in the bottom half of the AFC, and I think that third place schedule will find a way. They'll get some wins. Watch, because Travis Etienne is not going to play that bad. They'll be fine. But Trevor, you got to find out how you are going to play better, because I'll tell you right now, if you can't play to the potential that everybody knows you can, that contract, somebody's not going to want it. But boy, Jacksonville, you're going to have to eat up a lot of that stuff, and then you're going to be back in the quarterback market. But this dude has got to figure it out right now because something's missing with him. He's too good to be this mid at this point in his career. Year 5, we need to see some upside. We're not seeing an upside. We're seeing a stagnant pace and state of Trevor Lawrence's career. And it's not what we want to see because he is better than what his talent is showing us. And I don't know if it is a mental problem. It might be. But boy, it's bad. It's bad. No, we're not getting into the bandwagons. The Eagles, they finally look like they have something on offense to build with. I'm not going to overreact because it is one game and it was off the bye. They took care of business. Good for them. Okay? Falcons losing to the Niners. I'm not worried about them. I think that the Niners surprisingly look good, and I've said that, they'll be a pretty competitive playoff team under Shanahan because Shanahan can coach his tail off. Schematically, offensively, he's head and shoulders above a lot of guys. Green Bay against Arizona. I don't like the way Green Bay's looked the last 2 weeks off the bye. They'll get in a rhythm. Micah Parsons finally showed exactly the reason why they gave up first-round picks for him. 3 sacks against the Cardinals. That is the type of game that made the Packers make this deal happen. Speaking of deals, I have decided that I will be making an episode following the trade deadline, November 4th, at around, and the deadline's about 4 p.m., so I'm thinking about maybe a 5 o'clock show, Tuesday, the 4th, and we'll go over everybody's trades. We'll go over where we think the new playoff standings will look going into that second half of the season, because that is a good point to kind of go, okay, we've seen a half of football from teams, and then we're going to see what the second half is going to look like. I'm thinking that's what we're going to do on the 4th, so I will let you guys know as it gets close. That's what I'm thinking now, because I want to do a trade deadline show. Plus, I think you guys are sick and tired of hearing the same old recaps and what new takes I've got, and I thought we might do something new. And I think the trade deadlines, if we get some deals, it might be a good way to kind of look at it. So that's what I'm thinking for when the trade deadline happens, and that's November 4th. All right, and we'll worry about that as it gets close. All right. Let's go to college football briefly because the Florida Gators have fired Billy Napier after their win against Mississippi State on Saturday, and they fired Napier Sunday. So am I surprised by this? Hell no. Billy Napier was his own worst enemy when he could not beat South Florida, and then you get absolutely outclassed against Miami, LSU, Texas A&M, and yeah, you beat Texas, and yeah, you beat Mississippi State. You have not looked good to start out the year, and you're not kind of giving the fans any hope. And the fans wanted you gone. And now that job might be number one on some people's minds for the best college football job left that's open. Although Penn State, some people say, is one, which I won't blame you for that. But Florida, I mean, you guys got to low-key make a move. You guys are too talented of a recruiting pool. And the SEC, I think, when I look at the rest of the SEC, right, you have the resources to compete with Bama. You have the resources to compete with Georgia as far as getting recruits locally. Okay? You've got Miami and you've got Florida State to battle recruits from. And if I'm being honest, the SEC can get you to the NFL quicker with level of competition than the ACC can. Okay? But, I mean, again, it's got to find a way to just get the right guys together. And you have a quarterback in DJ Lagway who's probably going to have to get a guy that believes in him to ascend unless he transfers into the transfer portal and goes to a situation where he looks great. And there will be a lot of teams calling if he does. I can guarantee that. But Florida, this move was long overdue. And now the decision comes, okay, well, when do they make that move? Good question that I honestly, I mean, I'm hearing Lane Kiffin to Florida. Good luck trying to pry him away from Ole Miss. I don't know if that's going to be easy. I mean, James Franklin, do you really want him in Florida? With the SEC pressure? I don't think you do. So, not looking too great. So, again, only 2 teams had a bye this week. Bills and the Ravens. Kick back, enjoy, get healthy. Can't wait to talk about you guys for the time being. Although, Baltimore might be fading this way, where we push them off to the side like some other teams we're doing now. And Buffalo's still staying relevant. So we'll still be talking about Buffalo. Pretty short and sweet, I think, today. I don't think I need to go over too much into the recaps. I'm not worrying about the Cowboys beating the Commanders that bad. I mean, there's not really much to say. Other than that, I don't think there's much to tackle. Texans-Seattle's going on right now. I'm not going to go too much into that game. I'll save that a little bit for Thursday, but college football, now we're getting the big boys to play. LSU A&M plays soon. Miami goes down. Indiana's 2. Ohio State's 1. So now everybody's wondering, Rich, can anybody dethrone Ohio State to win the national title for college football? I want to say yes. And if anybody can, I bet you guys are not going to like my answer. And I hate my answer, but it's the honest to God's truth. The team that I think can challenge Ohio State to win the national title this year and possibly beat them is Alabama. My worst nightmare of Chief bandwagons absolutely gaslighting and Bama bandwagons coming back and being insufferable after I wrote them off week 1 has gone disastrous. Just as bad as it is with me when it comes to bets losing on one leg and fantasy football deciding guys not scoring. It's fucking bad right now, guys. I want somebody to dethrone Ohio State so I don't have to fucking see Barstool Tate fucking gloating about Ohio State because he's a fucking so annoying to listen to on my Twitter timeline. Like, dude, you act like you're above everybody. Pipe down. Bro, they're like Bama fans, bro. I can't stand them. Like, bro, they're like Chiefs bandwagons in college. Honestly, they're like equivalent now. How exhausting and nauseating they are. Oh my God. Bama bandwagons too. You're all in that stratosphere of, get away. I would like to say Indiana, and they did beat Oregon last week. Good win. But I got to see it against Ohio State to make me go, yep, they got goods. And they got some good players now. Georgia beat a good Ole Miss team in Ole Miss. Or no, in Georgia, I'm sorry. And that was a good win. I'm not knocking them. But I've got serious questions about that defense being what it once was. And Gunnar Stockton, I know he had a good road win in Tennessee. And he beat a good Ole Miss team. I don't know if he's good when the big boys play. Oregon, Dante Moore, he looked bad against Indiana. I think they could be some team that could be good. But when they play somebody that's more physical than they are, they fold like cheap tents. They do. I like Texas Tech, but that loss against Arizona State makes me go, I kind of don't put you there for a reason, right? And then I look at the rest of the top 25. A&M quarterback problems. I don't know if they're going to be a serious contender. Miami, Carson Beck, he's blaming receivers for throwing interceptions. He threw 4 against Louisville. I wouldn't be blaming receivers if you threw 4 picks. Just saying. Texas has 2 losses. Oklahoma's not as good as everybody makes them seem to believe. Okay? I'm probably forgetting teams. LSU lost to Vanderbilt. I like Vandy. Diego Pavia's having a good season. Nah, I can't get there. Ahmad Hardy for Missouri. Nah, I can't get there either. I just can't. So, there's some teams like Indiana, Oregon, I need to see a little more. Could do it. Alabama's the choice, though. And it pains me to say because I like seeing other teams win that are not the Bamas, the Ohio States. Georgia's getting there. Clemson's out, thankfully, and I'm glad because I'm sorry. Those 4 teams have just bored me to death watching college football, watching them win. I like seeing other teams win. I do. Now, it's probably not going to happen, but the only bad things outside of me losing on one leg in bets and fantasy football for me this season, which I am so done with some of these fucking guys I have on my team, I'm done. Okay? The only thing that's worse is Bama bandwagons gloating, Ohio State fucking fans gloating, and Chiefs bandwagons gloating. And it's horrible. It's horrible. As you can tell by my face, I'm a little tired, but I'm tougher than that. But I can't stand them. But anyway, guys, that is really today's lounge time. I went over a little bit. I changed it up a little bit. Not as much recaps today, but we're getting close to the trade deadline, so we're going to have some content to go over. November 4th, we're looking at a 5 o'clock show for when the trade deadline news fully wraps up. It should be out by around there. We're looking at doing that. I'll remind you guys as it gets close. Follow me at Lounge Time Pod on X. I am more than happy to answer questions on the show because you give me questions to ask, I'll answer. And then I'll give you more than 10 seconds of fame about what my answer is, unless it's a joke answer, which then I'm like, no. Okay? You can also follow us on Rumble. We finally got the episodes on Rumble. Technical difficulties solved. We're good to go. We're up and running. You can follow us on Rumble. We're growing there. We want to grow a new community over there so that way we can bring them on here. You can also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell on YouTube to get all the content and news related to this season. We're almost halfway, and we're going to have guests, and there's going to be a lot to go through that's going to only spice up the season, and I'm looking forward to enjoying the ride, and we're in the middle of it. And New England might be a playoff team, so, hey, you go see me happy for the time being, and, hey, I know you guys like to see me happy. I hope at least, but hope you guys like to see me happy, man. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Lounge Time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you guys on Thursday where I go over Week 8 NFL, Week 9 college football, guarantees, and Survivor picks. This is a tough slate. See you guys on Thursday. Enjoy the last Monday Night Football game for the week. Texans Seahawks if you're watching. If not, I'll see you Thursday. And we'll get on to the picks and the guarantees. And I'll see you guys then.